A bulk of what you do when you write an essay is what you call paragraphing, and paragraphing is a huge element of writing. And when I say huge, I mean that it encompasses so many things. So in this style video, I'm not going to go into great detail in all of these elements because I don't want to overwhelm you, and there are so many different things that we could talk about. So what I do want to cover is just kind of the basics, give you an understanding of what makes a good and effective paragraph, just kind of give you some introductory information. And then if you on your own time want to look closer at the materials, some outside materials that I give you, as well as any other outside materials you may want to look at, I highly encourage you to do that, because in any course that you take, an instructor can only provide you with so much information and so many ideas and things to think about, and really your education's up to you. So this is going to be one topic that you're going to have to do some outside research and looking for if you really want to get into the heart of paragraphing, because it's just so big. And again, I don't want to overwhelm you with so much information. So paragraphing, again, is just everything that you do in order to make an effective paragraph. It mostly involves just one paragraph, just the unit of writing, which is the paragraph. But sometimes paragraphing relates to how you connect multiple paragraphs. So I hope that makes sense. So a lot of what I'm saying is how to build one specific body paragraph, but then you also have to think about how you're going to tie all of your body paragraphs together. So really, your paragraphs are important in your essay because they are what presents the meat of your essay. If you're writing an argument, it's the body paragraphs that give the information that helps to prove that your thesis statement or assertion is true. If you're writing an analysis, same thing. That's where your examples come in, it's where your evidence is, and that's how your reader follows you from one idea to the next. So that's why paragraphing is so extremely important. It is the body of your essay, it is the meat of your essay, and it's the core of your essay. So you need to have, of course, a strong introduction and a strong conclusion, but if your paragraphing in between is weak, you won't have an argument, or at least a solid one. It'll be crumbly and weak. So you have to make sure that your body paragraphs are effective and placed properly, and so on and so forth. So paragraphing also helps you know what to include and how to organize your paragraphs. Those are all conscious choices that you have to make when you're crafting and drafting an essay. And paragraphing helps you determine how you're going to do that. So we're going to go through a list, and even this list is by no means exhaustive. This is just the most important information I wanted to include at this time. So paragraphing allows you to know when to start a new paragraph. Sometimes you are going to move from point to point. So anytime you're switching to a new idea, you're going to have a new paragraph. Anytime perhaps you're writing a narrative essay, perhaps you're doing it in chronological order. If you're writing about a change in time or place, then you're going to write a new paragraph. Sometimes you're going to talk at length about one given idea or topic and just give, different focus pieces of information about that. If you have to give a pause or a break, then you would start a new paragraph in that case. So at this point in your college career, you're probably not going to be writing, 10, 20 page essays, which is when you would want to use a pause or a break. But you still need to know that sometimes it's an idea change, sometimes it's a time or a place change, and sometimes you simply need to give your reader a break. If you're talking about a really complex issue, you need to break your body paragraphs up so that they're not being overwhelmed by information. Also, your paragraphs have to have focus. You only focus on one idea per paragraph. If you go outside of that, your paragraph's not going to have focus. Your reader's not going to know the one point you're trying to make. We think in logical terms. So you have to write in logical terms. If you have a conversation with someone and you jump around from point to point to point without any logical reason as to why, your listener is not going to be able to follow you. It's same with reading. If your reader can't read your progression of thought and follow it, you're not doing your job as the writer. So every paragraph needs to have only one main point, and that is stated in your topic sentence. So coherence. Coherence is when you flow from thought to thought. You use transitions to move from point A to point B within your paragraphs. You also need to have coherence from body paragraph to body paragraph. So say you have a paper with 5 body paragraphs. Paragraph 1 needs to flow into paragraph 2. 2 needs to move to 3, 3 needs to move to 4, and so on. And then your reader needs to look back and go, oh, I see exactly how they went from paragraph 1 and ended with paragraph 5. So your paragraphs have to have that flow so that they can, of course, read what you're trying to say and comprehend what you're trying to say, but then that it makes sense. So it needs to move fluidly from beginning to end, either within a paragraph or within your paper as a whole. You also have to have unity, and unity is where everything within a body paragraph relates to everything else. So that goes back to focus and staying focused on only one main idea per paragraph. But you also have to explain, say you use a quote from a source, you have to explain how that quote relates to the topic sentence and the other information that you have given in your paragraph. Again, transitions here are extremely important. I'm going to cover transitions in a different video, but they help tie things together and show relation. So you could use however and go on a different tangent. You could say in addition and give more information on the same idea. So all of the information that you have within a body paragraph has to be united on one main idea. So focus, coherence, and unity are very much related. So you're staying focused on one idea, all of your thoughts are connected and related to each other very clearly, and you have to flow from one point to the next. And the biggest help in doing that is your transitions. So your paragraphs have to have transitions within the sentences as you move from sentence to sentence. But again, you have to have transitions showing how you are moving from paragraph to paragraph. So that's a whole essay issue as well as a inside of a paragraph issue, if that makes sense. So you've got to have transitions between your paragraphs and between your sentences. We've already talked about topic sentences, so you have to make sure that you have a kind of a mini thesis statement for every body paragraph, and that's where you state the one main idea per paragraph, and then you have to make sure all of the information within that paragraph relates back to that topic sentence. Otherwise, you've got a focus issue, and your reader's not going to be able to follow your argument or whatever you're trying to explain. And again, this information relates to any type of essay you're writing, whether it's a narrative, an analysis, an argument, an expository. It does not matter what type of essay you're trying to write. This is all applicable to any academic essay that you write. All right, you also need proper logic and critical thinking. You have to show that you're not ignorant. You have to show that you are knowledgeable about the topic you're discussing. You have to show that your progression of thought makes sense, that you're leading from point A to point B for a reason, and you have to show your reader that you're able to analyze and think clearly and critically about what you're talking about. Otherwise, your reader's going to think, you have no idea what you're talking about. Bam, argument's out the window. So your paragraphs have to be very clear in showing that you know what you're talking about. Your paragraphs also have to have examples, evidence, and support. That's what your sentences within a body paragraph do. You start with a topic sentence, you give evidence, and then you conclude the paragraph in a sentence and transition on to the next one. So you can have clear and specific description to develop your whatever you're trying to say. You can show cause and effect process, use an anecdote, use an analogy when you're comparing something to something else, or you could use definition and define something further. So there are many different types of example, evidence, and support you can use. You can use things from outside resources, statistics, all like that. There's so many different things you could use, but that is the core of each body paragraph. Remember that your paragraphs are written in the same way that your paper is as a whole. You've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and your example, evidence, and support is what comes in the middle. You also have to think about how you're going to organize all of your paragraphs as well as how you're going to organize your paper as a whole. Are you working with something with space? Are you describing something? And by space, I mean if you're describing a landscape, are you going to start on the right or the left? Are you going to move in kind of a circular fashion? Perhaps you're describing an advertisement. How are you going to organize your paper based on where you're describing in that advertisement. Think about time. Are you writing a narrative? Is chronology a good way to move your reader from point A to point B? What about importance? Do you want to start with your most important information and then dwindle down to the less important? Do you want to start with the less important and climb up to the most important information and place that at the end of your essay? You've got that to think about. What about climax? Are you writing a narrative where you want the heart of the story to be in the middle? There are multiple ways to organize, and usually they're pretty much based on the type of essay that you're writing, but you still have to think about it, and you have to do it logically. Also, within your paragraphs, you want to vary your sentence structure, so that aids back to your coherence, how you flow from thought to thought. So change up your sentence structure using just simple sentences. That gets really choppy, and your reader can't engage with that. So if they can't engage with how your sentences are structured, you need to change that up. Also, again, think about your beginning, middle, and end structure within a paragraph. And some information that I found that I really like, this is just a generalization. You don't have to do this every single time, but if you're writing an argument or an analysis, this would be a really good rule of thumb. You assert, you illustrate, you analyze. Your assertion becomes your topic sentence. Your illustration becomes your examples, evidence, and support, and your analysis is when you tie it all together, make an explanation, draw some sort of conclusion in your paragraph, and then transition to the next. So what I'm going to post online is this sheet, how to write an effective paragraph, and it goes more in depth with this assert, illustrate, and analyze idea. I did not create this. This is from another university, but it is very helpful so that you can really master that beginning, middle, and end type structure of a paragraph. So, I mean, again, I don't think this would be particularly helpful with a narrative. But actually, not really. Even with a narrative, you would still need a topic, say, making a point about a paragraph. You would illustrate it with specific detail that you're describing from your experience, and then you would analyze how that mattered. So really, I think you could adjust this type of information, this type of structure to just about any essay that you write. So give it a look. It's not particularly long, and it gives an example in there. So really think about this assert, illustrate, analyze structure. I think this would be really helpful in most of the essays that you write. Also, while I'm here, I'm going to include this resource online. It's much longer, but it breaks paragraphing, or at least paragraphs, down into manageable chunks. And it looks long but it's just got a lot of information in it. So say you're reading about body paragraphs, the body paragraph information really isn't that long, so you could take a while to look at this, but I expect you to read this in depth and in detail and in its entirety. So it explains more about unity. So if you feel like you are, as we progress with your writing assignments, if you feel like, I'm just not getting development, you can go here and look at how you can develop your paragraphs more effectively. So this is a general overview. Again, this is not something I created. It's from another school, but it looks really helpful in terms of getting into some better detail about paragraphing and how to help improve that. So if you know that you've got a particular weakness, come here and get on it and really try to focus on that area. But I also want you to work on it or to look at the whole thing too. All right, let's wrap up here so I'm not completely overwhelming you. Think about the length of all of your body paragraphs. My general rule of thumb is about a third of a page. Half of a page is getting too long. And sometimes students have paragraphs that are a page and a half long. And a page for a paragraph is too long. And it really doesn't matter what length of paper you're writing. When I wrote my graduate thesis, it's 80-some pages long. I don't have a paragraph that's longer than half a page. Your reader needs breaks. And the longer your paragraphs get, the more likely that you're focusing on more than one idea at a time. It means that you're focusing on too much information. You don't have focus. Your organization's getting screwed up. So really think about your length. At the same time, If you have a paragraph that's only 3 lines long, it's too short, which means you're not illustrating. You're not providing enough example evidence or support. You're not explaining what you mean as well. So make sure you have all of these elements in place for every single paragraph you write, and automatically that paragraph is going to be longer. So that's why I say a third to a half a page is your ideal goal for every paragraph that you write, including your introduction and including your conclusion. Do not go above or longer than half a page, because it will automatically get you in trouble with focus. And if you've got short paragraphs, it gets you in trouble with underdevelopment. So, I know it's kind of a whirlwind. I know this is a lot of information to take in, but take your time with it. Study up the things that you know you need to work on, especially as you go through the term and get more comfortable with your writing. So if you have any questions over any of this, just let me know.